So we're looking at Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim on page Tes Zayin, towards the right bottom. Kohen ha'oved tzarich l'kadesh yadav v'raglav. And the main question here, besides the technical issues about how to implement Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, and what mayim you need, and kiyar, and azara, makom kadosh, and everything, we have to focus on a fundamental question: is how critical is it to have Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim? So again, we have many, many different questions to approach. One of which is when Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, the other is how Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. But what's most important to us is how critical is it for Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim? We know that an avoda that was implemented by a zar, a non-Kohen, is possible. What about a Kohen? He's got all the credentials and genetics of a Kohen, but there was no Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. And he says, Kohen ha'oved tzarich l'kadesh yadav v'raglo v'achar kach yad. The way he formulates it, and we'll see this coming up over and over again, is that Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is a precondition to the avoda. There are many dimensions of the avoda that are only lechatchila. They enhance the avoda. But b'di'evad we can do without them. They're not critical or indispensable, but in the case of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, it's indispensable. And now he goes ahead and he quotes another shita. Yesh min harishonim, you'll take a look in Shin Gimel, and he attributes this to Tosus in Masechta Sanhedrin of all places. Shegam haba bi'arei kanis below avoda bein ulam mizbech o heichal ton Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. That Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is not only a precondition in avoda, but it's also a precondition in bia, in coming into and entering the azara, which means that certain areas of the azara are off limits unless you're dealing with a Kohen who is serving in the avoda. Now, in a case of a Kohen, if he does not do the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, then he can't even come in as a bi'arei kanis. So imagine what happens over here. We have avoda. The avoda generates a chiyuv of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. In a case of bi'arei kanis, the Kohen is coming into the azor. We'll have to see exactly why he's coming into the azor and where in the azor he's going into. But he's not doing avoda. A Kohen is coming into the azor without doing the avoda. He too needs Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, which means that Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is not only a precondition that generates the avoda, but it's a precondition that generates the bia. And then Afkamina is going to be in bi'arei kanis, where the Kohen, for whatever reason, we'll see why, is entering into the azor without doing an avoda, and he has no intention to do the avoda. Nevertheless, he needs Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. And this is the sheet of Tosus in Sanhedrin, that afilu abba bi'arei kanis below avoda, if he goes to a certain place within the Kodesh, we'll see in a minute, tone Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, it's a whole different kind of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. For example, I'm thinking out loud. There's a bracha on Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. It's a separate mitzvah incumbent upon a Kohen. Would that apply? Certainly would apply to Kohen or Ovid. Would it apply even to the Kohen of bi'arei kanis below? Is a mitzvah of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. And this is based on a Tosus in Sanhedrin. Now, where is the Kohen going into? He says, Bein ha'ulam l'mizbeach o lahechal. So when you move to the west of the mizbeach, you get to an area, if I remember correctly, it's 11 amos, that is Bein ulam l'mizbeach. And that is sort of a corridor into the heichal. He hasn't yet entered into the heichal. When he leaves the area of the Mizbeach, He has an area that leads him to the ulam. Then he gets to the ulam. From the ulam, he enters into the heichal. And we're requiring Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim if he wants to go into the area beyond the Mizbeach, Bein Ulam LeMizbeach. He's not yet in the Ulam. How much more so when he passes through the entranceway of the Ulam, he's in the Migdash Mamish, not just the Azorah, but the Kodesh Kadosh. He's almost at the Kodesh Kadosh, he's at the Heichal. Then for sure, it goes without saying that he needs Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. But the Chiddush here is that even in the Azorah itself, he needs Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim in a case of Bi'arei Konos. As long as he goes beyond the Mizbeach into that area right before the Ulam, so he's traveling from the east to the west, if he goes west enough, that he's caught in the area of an Ulam with Mizbeach, he needs Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. This is Tosfos and Sanhedrin. Now, Ofen HaKiddush. He's skipping to the nitty-gritty details. They used to create these booklets on how to do it. You know what I mean? How to do it. How do you do Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim? Does he start with his right hand, his right foot, his left hand, his left foot? Does he go from the feet to the hands to the feet? Nechluku Tanoim. Could you imagine? We have a fundamental machlokas of Tanoim how to do Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, which is a precondition for Avodah. According to one opinion, we're going to go one hand at a time. According to the other opinion, two hands at a time. So let's go through the two opinions. And he doesn't tell you exactly who says what. He just tells you that it's a sugya in Masechta Menachos, in Masechta Zvachim. So let's go through it. The first opinion is really makes Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim very, very complicated. Meiniach yodo hayemonis al gabi raglo hayemonis. Biyodo hasmolis al gabi raglo hasmolis. Umakadesh. How do you pull something like that off? So I guess you could say that since each hand is on each foot, meaning the corresponding foot, then he can dip his feet into the kiyar and his hands together with his feet. F-E-E-T. But now watch the second F-E-A-T. O, point to the other Tana, Shtei Yadav, Zu al gabi zu. Shtei Raglov, Zu al gabi zu. He's got his hands crossed, one on the other, the right hand on the left hand. He's got his left foot crossed over his right foot. He places his two hands onto his 2 feet. And he does Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. How does he do it? How does he lower himself down into the water? I can't understand this. Crisscross, both his hands and his feet, and his hands are on top of his feet. You take a look at the footnote here. Shindalu, because he doesn't want to call it Shindalu. Now that would be very demonic, to call it a shave, but he calls it Dalit Shin. And he quotes the Gemara in Tzvachim and Daf Yutes and Beis, She'eno yochel lasos ken. It's impossible to do this. To crisscross his hands and his feet, one on top of the other. I mean, how's he going to do this? Was he jumping into the water? Ela b'siyua kohen acher. He needs a partner. He needs another kohen to help him get down into the water. L'shitas hasover came amida min atzad. Anu amida toch shu nismach al dover acher shma amida. Imagine the kohen is doing the kiddush, is leaning on another kohen who is gradually lowering him down into the water. That's called amida al yedei dover acher. And we're now holding, according to this Tana, that amida al yedei dover acher shmei amida. So both sides, I don't know if we paskin like this, but if we do, then it's good news. I'll tell you why it's good news. Because in Viduri, there's halacha of amida. And you'll notice that a lot of people, when they recite Viduri, they lean on something. Because Viduri requires amida, it's very challenging to stand for such a long period of time. Like, for example, Chazoras Hashatz of Yom Kippur, of Musaf Yom Kippur, we recite Vidui over and over again. I'm talking about the Vidui Aruch, the Al-Chetz, one time after the other, and each time can take you, I don't know how many minutes. Are you allowed to lean on something?
Seems like they're putting their feet into water.
I don't know if you need a kli, you need a kiyar, but whether or not you put it into the kiyar directly or you take it out of the kiyar and then pour it, it's going to be a very difficult challenge. So now he tells you that we should look at another Gemara in Zvachim Daf Chaf Aleph. And you'll see this in footnote Shin Hey, the last line on your right column. The pasuk says, Rachatzu Aaron Ubanov Mimenu. And the question is, how do you interpret the word Mimenu? Mimenu could mean inside of it or from it. And this is your question, Ben. And that would be your opinion, that you don't dip your hands and feet into the kiyah, but mimenu, you take the water out of the kiyah. Upasak Rambam, shem kidesh b'tocho, b'safek sarch l'kadish shenis. He has to repeat the kiddush yadayim raglayim. However, b'diavad, it's kosher, even if he didn't repeat the kiddush yadayim raglayim, when he takes his feet in his hands and puts them directly into the key. Kiddush yadayim raglayim tona mida. It says b'voam el ol moed yirchatzu mayim v'lo yamusu o begishtam al mizbech l'shareis. We have here an analogy between kiddush yadayim raglayim, which is called yirchatzu mayim in the Torah's language, and Sherus. It says, Obegishtam el Mizbeach Lisharis. And Lisharis means the four avodos beginning with Shchita, ending with Zrika, and they require Amida. And now that we have an analogy between Sherus, the avodah, and Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, which is called Rachatzu B'mayim, they require Amida for Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. Honestly, it'd be a lot easier to do Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim b'yeshiva. And again, you'll ask me, how is he going to get the water on top of his Yadayim Raglayim? He needs, apparently, the help of another Kohen. And we're saying that an action that requires the help of another Kohen, according to this, is meaningful and it's valid. By the way, what happened to Don? Anybody see him go? He was here before. Hope it's not this internet. L'chatchila, tzarich l'kadish min hakiyah. Where's the water being held from which we draw the water onto the Yadayim Reglaim? It's held in the kiyah, but that's only l'chatchila. B'di'evet, im kiddush yodav reglaim mikli sharis acher pashem. This is really interesting. You could take a gigantic basin, dig it into the kiyah, and then from that basin pour it into another cup, and you can do kiddush yadayim reglaim in that cup. It's the third degree, if you follow it. So l'chatchila, we do the second degree. B'di'evet, we said that the Rambam holds that the first degree is okay. And now we're adding third degree. I don't know if we can go to the fourth degree. I doubt it. Where does the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim take place? In the Azor. Yesh min achronim shekasev sha'kiddush ton amida al haritzpa below chatzitza. I don't understand Shita Michael Mashma. If there's halacha about midah and the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim has to take place in the Azara, then for sure he's got to stand barefoot, because anything he wears on his shoe, on his feet, becomes a chatzitza, and he's not standing on the Azara. And I have a suspicion here, tell me if you think it might be right, that the Havamina was that Amida and Azara, in this case, are two separate halachas. Azara is a precondition in the actual Kiddush. Amida is halacha of mitzvah, that the Amida indicates the cover that he has for the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. Anything that you do by yeshiva is a little bit secondary. You give it a lot more significance if you do it by Amida. Like, for example, the Shulchan Aruch seems to assume that every mitzvah should be done by Amida, unless proven otherwise. Even Birkas HaMazon should be recited by Amida, except for the fact that Achila has to be by yeshiva, therefore Birkas HaMazon has to be. But that's an exception to the rule. So I personally, again, I'm not telling anybody to follow this, but when they come around with the pushka for the tzedakah, I stand up. I don't know if anyone has such. I looked around in my shul, nobody stands up. But in honor of a mitzvah, you give chashivas to a mitzvah, you stand up. So the Kohen is doing the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. It's a great mitzvah. It makes him mukhshar. It prepares him for the avodah. He does it by midah. Okay, he does it by midah, but I don't need azara. For my part, he could wear something, again, there's going to be another issue here about the chatzitza between the water of the kiyah and the feet of the Kohen. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Amida. Whether we need Amida al Gabi Azara, or is it enough that you have Azara and you have Amida? They're two separate machayvim, two separate mitzvahs, independent one of the other. John, are you able to hear me? You're okay. I saw you looking there. I don't know. This whole technology lately has been very nerve-wracking. Yeah, Ben?
I'm not understanding what chatzitza is. I think he's got. I don't understand the parameters of chatzitza.
No, I'm saying if you need a mida al gabi a ritzvah thora, then he can't have anything on his feet, because anything that he has on his feet will separate his feet from the azara, so he's not standing on the azara. But I'm suggesting that there could be a requirement of Amida for a different reason. It has nothing to do with Amida al Gabi Azara. As long as the Kiddush Raglayim takes place in the Azara, that's fine. There's another halacha called Amida that is an expression of the respect and the deference that the Kohen has for the mitzvah of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. But for that, I don't care about chatzitz. For my part, as long as he's standing, I don't care where he's standing or what he's standing on, it should be okay. So this Kiddush, which he attributes to the where is it here? The Minchas Chino, right? You see that in Shin Vav, that Kiddush Ton Amida. That's a big Kiddush because maybe Kiddush doesn't need Amida. Again, it needs Amida like any other mitzvah needs Amida. But for that, I don't care if his feet are on the Azor, the Rizkus Azor, or there's a chatzitza between his feet and the. He says, "Shemikach sha'kidush ton amido yesh lomod shenemru bo gam shar dine avoda." In other words, he's learning in the Chastinut that kiddush ton amida is midin avoda. Not the way I wanted to say it, some sort of general halacha in mitzvahs or in covet. It's manish, a reflection of the avoda, the status of kiddush time raglaim as avoda. Avoda requires an absolute connection between the ragle hakohen and the azor, the ritzvus azor, without any chatzitz in between. Then he quotes this Fasemes, based on a Rashi, "Im yamod hakohen bachutz v'yikadish yodem raglayim b'kli amunach b'fnim kosher." Wow, listen to this. The Kohen is standing, but he's not standing in the Azorah. He stretches his hands and his feet into the Azorah for the purpose of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. So the Kli that he's using, or let's say, for example, he dips his feet and his hands into the Kiyar, that Kli is located in the Azorah. The Kohen is located out of the Azorah, but he's standing. So we have Amida of a Kohen. But the Amida inside, the Amida outside the Azor could never qualify as Avodah. So you see that according to Sfasemes, the requirement of Amida is not a reflection of the Avodah element in Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. That require that the Kohen do his Amida is inside the Azor. Shelo kamo avoda shakoin atzmo tzor. Yes, so the question is, how far can we go with this? Like 1,000,001 questions pop into my mind. If the Kohen is outside the Azorah because he's not involved in an Avodah, there's Don. Hi, Don.
Sorry, I didn't have any sound, so I had to.
Oh, I knew it. I knew that. That's why I kept asking John if he could hear me.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. It's the technology. It's the internet connection. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, anyway, I can hear you clearer now. Thank you.
Okay, look, one of these days, Don, this is my bracha to you and to all of us in terms of this whole corona business, is that if Yirtzeh Hashem, you'll feel comfortable coming face to face.
Absolutely. Baruch Hashem.
And it's a bracha that I wish for everybody, because everybody is freaked out. Nobody knows what's going on. And every piece of information you get the opposite information. So I wanted to take a booster. They wouldn't let me because I already had COVID.
Oh, wow.
Don't figure it out.
Yeah, I know.
So we're in this confusion. But, my bracha is that we can get back together. Again, we owe Zoom a tremendous hakaras hatov. Zoom really carried us over for a long time. But, I'd like to get back to the good old days, the pre-Zoom days. Now, if you come to the cheer and you don't hear me, Don, then there's one of two issues. Either you need hearing aids or I have to get my voice checked out, But on Zoom, it's just a question of, the technology. So I'm just wondering out loud, we mentioned, Don, this is relevant to you, Mr. Hashem, as a Kohen. Can the Kohen stand outside the Azorah and do the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim by having, let's say, someone pour the water onto his feet and his hands from a kli that's inside the azor.
Uh-huh.
So it's like he's doing a juggling act, but this Sfas Emes opens this question in my mind. He doesn't address this question explicitly because he thinks that even if the Kohen is wearing shoes and he's standing outside the Azara, it's not a psul, because normally wearing shoes is a psul in the Kohen, the Avodas HaKohen, because the shoes are a chatzitza between the feet of the Kohen and the Ritzvas Azara. But the Sfas Emes wants to claim that Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is a prerequisite to Avodah, but it's not an Avodah per se.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the halacha of Amida in Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, that requirement is not a reflection of the status of Kiddush Yadayim as Avodah, but rather a separate halacha. We call it Kavod HaMitzvah. And therefore, who cares whether or not there's a chatzitza between the feet of the Kohen and the Ritzvas Hazorah? For our purposes, let it be outside the Hazorah. And that would be sufficient. Again, this is absolutely opposed to the Minchas Chinuch, who understands that Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim has all the requirements of Avodah, and the Kohen has to be in the Azorah with nothing separating his feet from the Ritzvas Hazorah. Yeah,
I was wondering, Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is a hechsher mitzvah. Apparently, like building a
According to Sfas Emes, I have no doubt about it. It doesn't have any inherent significance. And what I don't understand about the Minchas Chinuch, maybe you could set me straight here, is we said that Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is a requirement for Birei Kanis. The Kohen is in the Mizbeach Ulam section or in the Heichal, and he requires Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. He's not doing any Avodah. How can you say that Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is part and parcel of Avodah if Birei Kanis itself requires Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim?
could be coming into the Azara as considered Avodah, even if you don't do anything. Yeah,
Very hard for me to assume that coming into the Azara is an avodah. I mean, a zar could go into the avodah if necessary. For example, if he wants to speak on a kohen on his carbon, I mean that surely you wouldn't say that's an avodah. Yeah, but I would say that if a zar can do shechita, it's because shechita is not an avodah. But to tell me that the kohen coming in for birei kanis requires Kiddush Yadayim Midin Avodah when it's Birei Kanis, I don't know how to put that all together. I'm absolutely convinced that if we go down the line of the Minchas Chinuch, there are two different dinim of Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim. I would be fascinated to know if the Minchas Chinuch would agree in the case of Birei Kanis that maybe even if he's wearing something on his feet, it wouldn't be a problem because again, the Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim is not engendered by Avodah. In the case of Birei Kanis. But let's just see if we have time for one more paragraph. Yesh min ha'achronim shekosav shakohen tzarich lios lavush b'bigdei kahuna b'shas kiddush yadayim raglayim. Now, I think there's a mistake here. In parentheses, it says Sfas Emes. Do you see that? Anybody? Mm-hmm. You do that. You have to tell me because I don't know if you hear me. Now with the hearing aids and all that, I don't know. It says Sfas Emes. You see that? That's a mistake. It should say Minchas Chinuch, not Sfas Emes. It's the Minchas Chinuch who requires that the feet of the Kohen be directly in contact with the Ritzvas Hazorah, classifying Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim as an avodah. He therefore would say that he's got to be lavish for bigdei kahuna. Whereas the Sfas Emes understands it like you will use your terminology as a hechsher mitzvah. Well, a hechsher mitzvah is not an avodah. He can even be standing outside the Azara of the Kohen. Then for my purposes, why should he put on bigdei kahuna? He's not even in the Azara. He's nowhere near an avodah. If I were to tell you that somebody standing outside the Azara needs bigdei kahuna, you would have to laugh me out of the basement. You would tell me, Rabbi Berzon, the rest nourish. It could be that the Sfas Emes quotes the Minchas Chinuch or mentions a Havamina like the Minchas Chinuch. Then maybe he's right in quoting the Sfas Emes. I don't have access to the Sfas Emes on Zvachim. You could probably get it off the internet. if you have an internet connection. So in the next line, and this is where we'll conclude for today, he says, we don't need the crisscross. It's one hand on top of the connecting the corresponding foot and the other hand on the corresponding foot. And that's the Tana that we're going to pass to my club. Okay, then? So let's make a note of get up to. And tomorrow is Tuesday, correct? Yeah, I like to write down. Now, this is on Pes Zayin. That seems to be the last page that I have in photograph. Is there another page beyond Pes Zayin? Because we're going to be finished with this.
Per person?
Now, wait a second. Yeah.